Shabbat Kol HaMoed, Sukkot, is a particularly special one. Of course, every Shabbat is sacred, every Shabbat is holy. In this Shabbat, during the festival of Sukkot, we find that our spirits are lifted in a different kind of way with the joy of Sukkot. And just as Rabbi Spolansky began our service speaking about how during the month of Tishrei, during these high holy day seasons, that we as Jews pray with our entire beings, right? On our brains on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, with our hearts on Yom Kippur, with our hands on Sukkot, and with our feet on Simchat Torah. And this idea of serving God with our minds and with our bodies and with our souls, it really resonates. There is something exceptionally powerful of stepping out of our ordinary worship modes and picking up the rituals of a chag, of a festival. But what exactly is it that we commemorate and celebrate during this festival of Sukkot? Most everyone would tell you that during this festival of Sukkot we commemorate how Jews traveled through the wilderness for 40 years, and they were able to survive while living in the Sukkot, in these protective little booths. And so this week we do the same. But we should know that this is only one opinion in our tradition. Rabbi Spolansky also brought this Talmudic, not so much argument, but a Talmudic idea that Rabbi Akiva brings this opinion of the booths, whereas Rabbi Eliezer offers a different perspective, saying that we really commemorate on Sukkot is the Ananei HaKavod, the clouds of glory that followed the camp of Israel as it traveled from Egypt to the promised land of Israel. And according to our tradition, God protected the Jews during their travels by providing them with 7 clouds of glory, which enveloped them. So there was one cloud which was placed beneath their feet like a carpet that allowed them to never need to change a pair of shoes for 40 years wandering in the desert. And that there was one above their heads. Think of the protection of the sukkah, right? One cloud above their heads like a shadow at all times. And 4 clouds were on all 4 sides of them. And the 7th cloud went before them to show them the way. And all of Israel dwelt in one protective booth made of these clouds of glory. And according to our rabbis, our sukkah today is there to remind us of this divine protection, this divine holding that God gave us. However, these miraculous clouds represent only part of the picture of the blessings in the wilderness, only one of the miracles which God performed for us. There were 2 distinct others, the manna and the well. Every day in the barren desert, the food rained down from heaven, providing sustenance for survival. And while the well of water, according to the tradition, traveled wherever the Jews went in the desert. And then, of course, there were these Ananei Kavod, the protective clouds of glory. So the question that we might ask is, why have a festival that celebrates only one of the 3 miracles that God did for us as we survived in the wilderness? One answer stems from the way in which the Israelites interacted with or appreciated these miracles. While it is true that God performed all 3 for the Jewish people in the wilderness, the miracle of the clouds of glory was particularly unique and particularly appreciated. For the Jews complained about the other 2 miracles, but they never grumbled against the clouds. God miraculously provides the Jews with water in the wilderness, and 3 days after the witnessing of the crossing of the sea, the Jews were already complaining about the water. And it didn't stop throughout the entirety of their wandering. And similarly, God performed this miracle by providing Jews with manna from heaven, dropping down, tasting like whatever the Israelites wanted to eat. But that did not stop them from complaining about the food and saying that they wish they could go back to Egypt where they had fresh fish and delicious meat to eat. Only regarding the clouds of glory were there no complaints. And we Jews have long been noted for being complainers, for better or for worse. I like to think that this is because we have a critical and discerning eye, always seeking the best, how to make each situation better. I try that at home, but that's I'm told that's it's wishful thinking. I understand that's a generous outlook. The Jews have always been a bit kvetchy from the Torah throughout our history. And there were certainly moments, many moments in our long and troubled past where complaining was more than appropriate. However, for some, complaining can feel a bit like a competitive sport. Perhaps you've heard the old story of a Mr. Schwartz who got very sick in Boston and was taken to the fanciest hospital, Mass General Hospital, with the fanciest pavilion, the greatest doctors, where presidents and actors and famous people are taken to be treated. And Schwartz stayed there for a few days and insisted on being shifted to Beth Israel Hospital just down the road. This little Jewish hospital. And after being admitted at Beth Israel, a young intern who wished he was an intern at Mass General down the street came into Schwartz's room and said, "I see you transferred from Mass General. I guess that place is not exactly what it was cracked up to be." And Schwartz says, No, the medical care was truly wonderful. I can't complain. Then it must have been the food. No, food was great. Can't complain about the food. Sensational. The x-rays, the beds, accommodations were great, doctor. Thank you. Can't complain. So the intern asks, "So then why did you switch to this hospital?" To which Schwartz replies, Here I can complain. For some reason, this joke resonates with the Jewish people. As if being slightly dissatisfied is a part of our Jewish identity. And I admit it is a little funny. I grew up with the humor of Larry David, Jerry Seinfeld, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, Don Rickles, Jack Benny, comedians who made their careers nitpicking the smallest of inconveniences. And yes, something about their neuroses feels authentically Jewish. However, I'm not entirely sure that that is a fully positive thing. Jews complain, and it is no joke because it can create self-fulfilling prophecies of doom. It can give us a warped perspective on life. It can cause us to see a world in a way that can never be perfected, and so why even bother? The role of complaining in our lives can be damaging. But in the context of Jewish humor, it can also bring a great deal of healing. And of course, during Sukkot, a great deal of joy. So I hope that you will join me this winter as we take a deeper dive into the world of Jewish humor, 10-week Melton course entitled From Sinai to Seinfeld, The Jews and Their Jokes. And registration will be up online in just a few weeks, but you can mark that's going to be Wednesday evening starting in December. Okay, back to Sukkot. There is a blessing that we recite every Kabbalat Shabbat, every Friday evening in our services. We pray, Baruch atah Adonai, haparei Sukkat Shalom aleinu v'al kol amo Yisrael v'al Yerushalayim. Blessed are you, Adonai, who spreads the sukkah of peace upon us, upon all the people of Israel, and upon Jerusalem. The question we must ask then is, what is the connection between the sukkah and that of peace? Why does it say that God should spread the sukkah of peace? Why not spread over the Torah of peace? Why not the talit of peace? What connects sukkah and peace? Rabbi Avraham Isaac Kook, the first chief rabbi of Israel, explains that this is because you can fulfill the mitzvah of sukkah with an imperfect sukkah. You are supposed to have 4 walls, but if for some reason you only have 2 and a piece of a third, it is still kosher. You are supposed to have a beautifully decorated sukkah, but if it is bare, it is still a kosher sukkah. It is still imperfectly perfect. And with almost every other mitzvah within our Jewish lives, we strive for perfection. We do not make a blessing over the motzi, over a broken challah. We do not use an etrog if part of it is missing or damaged. We can only use tefillin, the phylacteries, if they are in perfect condition. It is only in the sukkah that God tolerates our imperfection. And this is why, says Rav Kook, we connect sukkah with peace. Because peace can never exist with perfection, a perfect peace. I should say, a worldly peace can never exist in perfection. In the grave, there is perfect rest, perfect peace. But in this world, there are no perfect people. There are no perfect nations. And therefore, we only get along if we are willing to sit in the same sukkah, despite its imperfections, despite our own imperfections. These supernatural clouds, which surrounded and protected our people in the wilderness, in which we commemorate with our Sukkot, represent God's perfect peace. And on Shabbat, we celebrate God's perfect world. They represent the contentment, the satisfaction of the people of Israel. And this year, we had plenty to complain about. And on this Chol HaMoed Shabbat, we keep our critical observations to ourselves. We rejoice in the beauty found in the world. We recognize that the world is not perfect, and nothing we can do in this lifetime will bring perfection. But that does not stop us from constantly trying to make our world a better place. With our minds, with our bodies, and with our souls, do we rejoice on this Shabbat and on this festive day. Bodim l'simcha, Shabbat Shalom.